The solid waste management here in the Philippines is under RA 9003, or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. It is signed by our former president, Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, before. The tragedy before in the Payatas dump site pushes the signing of this law. So that's why we have this law right now. It has been implementing since 2000 up to this year, 2019. The solid waste management system covers a whole system from the generation at source, the sources of the waste, as well as storage of the waste, transporting of the waste, collection, and disposal. The scope of solid waste is all the sectors of a community, all of the sectors of a city or municipality. When I say sectors, these are the waste generators, the one who generates the waste. It comprises the household first, or the residential area. It also comprises the business sector, or the private sector, the commercial sector, and also the institutional sector. It is the schools, offices, or the hospitals. These are the institutions. And also the industry sectors, because they produce solid waste aside from the industrial waste or hazardous waste that they produce. And the last would be the agriculture sector, because the biodegradable waste, or the agricultural waste is also considered as solid waste. Based on the law, we have four types or four classifications of solid waste. First, we have biodegradable waste or compostable waste. So these are the waste that are decomposed or to be composted. Second, we have recyclable waste. These are the waste that are free from contamination that can still be used. The third, we have residual waste. Residual waste, just like I've said earlier, it is non-compostable, non-recyclable. You cannot compost it, you cannot recycle it, you cannot sell it to the junk shops. No? So that's the third, and the last one would be the special waste. The special waste are household hazardous waste. So it is very specific that it is generated within the household. One of the major societal issues that we have here in the Philippines on the local level and the national level is the behavior of the people. It is one of the issues that needs to be addressed, because despite of the efforts of the national government as well as the local governments in conducting education awareness campaigns for all the people, for the household sector or for the private sector or any other sectors, it is still the behavior change of the people. It is one of the major issues, because it is not easy to change the behavior of a person. So on the global level, maybe I could only speak on the ASEAN sector or the Southeast Asian, because dun kami medyo familiar. There were more advanced than us in regards to solid waste management. So on the ASEAN, we have more or less same status. The issues that we have is also what they have, and on the policy level or the laws that we have, we are more advanced in terms of the laws compared to other SEs or Southeast Asian regions. So that is one of the major societal issues that we have here. Since the signing of the law, there have been innovations regarding the technologies or the methods used in processing waste. For example, we have biodegradable waste. Sila yung mga nabubulok. Before, our methods of composting comprised of the pit method, or the one where we dig a hole into a backyard and we will put biodegradable waste and then soil. Biodegradable waste is like a lasagna method. The waste, the soil, the waste, and the soil. So before that is our first methods that we use. However, this previous years, with our partners of the DOST, they have invented bioreactor. It is an equipment or it is a solid waste management technology that process also biodegradable waste. And also, there were technologies from the DOST like the biodigester. Biodigester is where the biodegradable waste and used oils be converted into biogas. So that was one of the new technologies that we have. And there were other waste to energy technologies that will be introduced here in the Philippines. But right now, I think we have waste just the biogas technologies or the biomass technology. And for the recycling, still we um, store or compact our recyclable waste, just like the PET bottles and the metals, the aluminum cans and tin cans, and we build it, we compact it into huge square compacted waste and transport it into large-scale recycling facilities outside our country. So, because it is recycling, the PET bottle will be converted in also PET bottles. The tin can will be converted into stick, also tin cans and aluminum cans. For residual waste, these are the ones usually being thrown in our sanitary landfill or the illegal ones, the dump sites. The technologies right now that we have for residual waste are the ones called the refuse derived fuel. And also there were technologies that called brick making technology. Um, the residual waste or the plastics are being shredded into smaller pieces and it is being mixed with the sand, and so it will produce pavements or hollow blocks being used for construction. So that's one of the innovative or the modern technologies that we have in managing solid waste. One of the most beneficial and less risky are the ones who do not discharge or do not emit any toxic waste. What are the toxic waste? So there were technologies that emits gases, and there were technologies that discharge or produces wastewater. So for me, the less risky technologies are the ones who do not release those emissions or those toxic waste uh, together with the processing. For composting for biodegradable waste, the bioreactors or the biogas are one of the most efficient. Why? Because for the biogas, number one, you process the biodegradable waste, and second, you produce biogas, which you can use for cooking, or if you can further refine it and use to other things, you know. And there were gases or fuels that can be refined, and after refinement, you can use it for vehicles. But you know, the refining process is also crucial. And for composting, biogas and bioreactor are one of the most effective and has a shortest time of processing. For residual waste, the brick making is one of the less risky things, the one that I mentioned earlier, the brick making system. But I think one also the most beneficial is when the local government units convert plastics into livelihood, the ones that they sell. If you are familiar with the folders or the bags or the wallets that made of plastics or the zesto bags, there were also pillows or sofa cushion that made with plastics inside. It's a pillow, a plastic inside the pillow. I think that is one of the most efficient and with less, it do not produce any waste. If you will just wash the plastics, and you will dry it under the sun, but and this you don't need money, or it will not cost so much processing that. And also there were decorations, if there were souvenirs made from recyclable plastic be- um, by our very creative barangays and households and the women's organization, NGOs. I think that will be the most efficient practice. So we Filipinos can help our country to properly manage solid waste management through following rules. We need to follow the laws. We need to follow what our city is telling us. If we have segregated collection, the schedule of the disposal, for example, the Mondays for biodegradable waste, Tuesdays for non-biodegradable waste, we just need to follow the rules and segregate or separate our waste. Because mixing solid waste is one of the factors that our sanitary landfills are being are has lesser lifespan. What I'm trying to say is that um, because sanitary landfills are where we dispose or find our waste. And mas napupuno sila kung halo-halo yung basurang tinatapon mo. So if we separate or segregate our waste, if we compost our biodegradable waste, if we sell our residual waste, it will lessen the waste to be disposed. So that is one of the major practices that we need to follow. We don't need to dispose everything. Because marami pang makapakinabangan, marami pa natin itong ibenta, or on a creative side, pwede natin convert sa ganito or i-process sa ganito. Also, the political will of the leaders of the cities and municipalities is one of the main factors for improving our waste management. Because there were leaders who do not prioritize waste management. They prioritize other things. And not that they prioritize, sometimes they do not give any budget for that. And that contributes to um, to improper waste management, or it contributes to the uncleanliness of the surrounding and throughout our country. So first, we need to segregate, and then we need to follow the laws, the rules in our city, in our barangay, and on the national level. For the students like you, um, uh, I recommend that for environmentalists or for advocates, that if you want to volunteer here in our office in DENR, Environmental Management Bureau, because we also have our program, which is a green educator. It is green educators. The students or the youth are encouraged to be like us, to be like educators to your fellow students or fellow constituents. For example, if you live in a one subdivision or province, your fellow residents or fellow churchmates, if you have, um, is also one of the things that can contribute to raising awareness, information, and education with regards to waste management.
One of the problems I've noticed in my community environment is that there is little to no segregation. In our condo, we have someone who goes door to door to collect our trash. He carries this big trash bag and dumps all of the trash in there, which makes it harder to segregate. Segregation of trash is important in solid waste management because it makes it easier to recycle. The effective segregation of waste means less waste goes to the landfills, which makes it cheaper and better for people and the environment. Also, hazardous wastes such as batteries and chemicals should not be mixed with other wastes because they can cause health and environment problems such as contamination of groundwater. For my plan of action, I suggest that this segregated trash bins should be present almost everywhere. We can start in places that already have trash bins. Additional segregated trash bins can be added to those places. These bins should also be present in residential buildings so that tenants and residents can segregate their trash. In USC, there are only two bins compared to four or five in other universities, such as in Ateneo. UC should have more trash bins to further improve and promote segregation, especially for hazardous waste because these wastes are produced in all the facilities of the university.
Are suffering environmental dilemmas such as global warming, air pollution, and flash floods. These problems are caused by the misbehavior of the people towards waste management. Poor waste disposal affects our climate as some waste decomposes It releases greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This rises up in the atmosphere, which takes up heat and adversely causes extreme weather reactions in the form of storms and typhoons. The open burning of waste causes air pollution. Examples are burning plastics and rubbers. As responsible citizens of the Philippines, we can show love to our country by following the rules on garbage disposal. Garbages should be thrown on proper dump sites and not on canals or rivers so as not to clog the drainage and the waterways. As what Ms. Joanne Flores said, the political leaders sometimes don't give much notice on proper waste disposals. Sometimes they don't give budget to it. So the political leaders and the government should also act accordingly. They should also be consistent on giving support because sometimes they only notice something or they only give support or help to the victims when disasters happen like flash floods. Every one of us should be responsible in proper waste disposal so that we'll have a better world to live in.
One of the issues being tackled by solid waste management is nationwide flooding. I know for a fact that my community suffers greatly with the flash floods that occur during typhoons or simply just mere rainfalls. And because of that, the barangays highly encourage its people to practice proper composting of wastes to minimize the detrimental effects of floods. After a thorough understanding of the processes and objectives of solid waste management with the help of Ma'am Joanne, the advancement of science has truly paved the way to greatness for mankind. And I say this not only because we are now equipped with sufficient knowledge on how to deal with catastrophes, but because we are still evolving and finding other methods that would be beneficial to society. My suggested plan of action is divided into two, and these are on site options which could be easily done in a community. It is good to take note that we should start at the root cause of the problem. Only then can we proceed to the complexities of the solution. So, the first one is the communal pit disposal, where consumers dispose of waste directly into a communal pit. The size of this pit will depend on the number of people it serves. The long term recommended objective is 6 cubic meters per 50 people. The pit should be fenced off to prevent small children from falling in and should generally not be more than 100 meters from the dwellings to be served. Ideally, waste should be covered at least weekly to minimize flies and other pests. The advantages of this is that it's rapid to implement and requires little operation and maintenance. The only constraints are the distance, which can cause indiscriminate disposal, and workers to manage the pit. Another on site option would be to set up a family pit disposal, wherein families could set up pit disposals with adequate space up to 1 meter deep, wherein they could regularly cover waste with soil from sweeping or ashes from cooking. The advantages of this are the families are the ones responsible for managing their own waste, so no external waste workers are required, and community mobilization can be incorporated into hygiene promotion programs. The constraints are it involves considerable community mobilization for construction, operation, and maintenance of pits, and considerable space is also needed. Again, these are just a few of the possible and attainable solutions we can do to change our perceptions towards calamities. There are other countless ways on how we can progress altogether towards the hazards of disasters. And if done right, maybe the idea of an ideal country wouldn't be so hard to reach after all.
In my opinion, the solid waste management in the Philippines cannot keep up with the number of waste the people produce because of the garbage I see everywhere. This has been a problem for so long, yet there are only a few people that is aware of the solutions to lessen it. As a student, my plan to action is to practice segregation because, to be honest, I didn't know how important segregating is and how it greatly affects our environment. I would also want to recommend to our campus to start putting 4 bins because according to Miss Flores, that's the right number of trash cans we should have with accordance to the 4 types of waste. I also plan to practice recycling more as it is beneficial not just for the environment but also for me as I can save money through it and lessen the waste I produce. I plan to raise awareness to its importance by joining organizations, volunteering to clean up drives, and other activities that they would conduct. I plan to also lessen the use of plastic by buying bamboo straws and utensils and other ways because plastic is the most used material in most countries. As Ms. Flores said, we should listen to what our environment is telling us because it's only a matter of time that we will face the backlash if we don't start taking care of it more. The government and other organizations can continue with their programs about waste management, but at the end of the day, it all still lays on the hands of the people of the country.